My beloved child, do not swipe away just yet. There is a reason your attention has been interrupted at this exact moment. Countless voices have been competing for your focus, yet somehow these words found you. That is not something your heart should dismiss lightly. Something hidden has been waiting in silence, growing stronger with every passing day, and today the veil begins to lift. Listen carefully, because what you are about to hear will not make complete sense at first. It was never meant to. Some truths arrive like distant thunder before the rain finally reaches the earth. There is someone whose heart races whenever your name crosses their mind, someone who has rehearsed 1,000 conversations with you and failed to speak every single one of them. You have wondered why certain encounters felt unfinished. Why certain glances carried more weight than entire conversations. Why there have been moments when someone looked at you as though they were standing on the edge of saying something life-changing, only to suddenly look away as if fear had stolen the words from their lips. You thought they were distracted. You assumed they were uninterested. You convinced yourself that perhaps you imagined it. But what if you were witnessing something far deeper than hesitation? What if you were watching a soul wrestle with emotions they were never prepared to carry? There are battles that never make a sound. Not every storm announces itself with crashing waves. Some storms happen behind a smile. Some earthquakes happen inside a heartbeat. Some of the loudest cries are buried beneath ordinary conversations. This is one of those stories. The one connected to your soul has become unexpectedly afraid, not because of who you are, but because of what your presence awakens inside them. They have met many people before. They have smiled. They have laughed. They have walked away, but you unsettled something that had remained asleep for years. You reminded them of the version of themselves they thought was gone forever, and that frightened them more than loneliness ever could. You have been asking why progress has seemed so painfully slow, why every sign of closeness was followed by distance, why hope appeared one day only to disappear the next. You interpreted inconsistency as rejection. You believed silence meant indifference. Yet silence has many languages. Sometimes silence says, "I don't care," but sometimes silence whispers something entirely different, "I care too much." There is a difference few people recognize. Your soulmate has been standing between those two kinds of silence, unable to distinguish one from the other. They have carried words within them that feel heavier each day, words that long to escape, words that rise to the edge of confession, only to be pulled back by fear before they ever reach daylight. You may wonder, if their feelings are genuine, why don't they simply speak? Because every soul carries invisible history. Long before they knew your name, they knew disappointment. Before they imagined your face, they experienced loss. Before your paths ever crossed, they trusted the wrong people. Every broken promise quietly built another wall around their heart, brick after brick, excuse after excuse, until eventually they became so skilled at hiding their emotions that even they forgot where the truth was buried. Then you arrived, without permission, without warning, without realizing it. You walked into a place inside them that had remained locked for so long they assumed nobody would ever find the door. That should have brought relief. Instead, it brought panic. because opening a heart that has survived heartbreak feels strangely dangerous. Healing can be more frightening than pain when pain has become familiar. The wounded often know how to survive suffering. They do not always know how to survive hope. Hope asks for vulnerability. Hope requires trust. Hope demands that someone believe tomorrow might be different from yesterday. That is where your soulmate became afraid, not of loving you, of losing you before they even had the courage to begin. Every time they considered speaking honestly, another memory interrupted them. A voice from the past reminded them of rejection. Another disappointment replayed itself. Another wound whispered, "Don't risk it again." So they smiled instead, changed the subject, pretended nothing unusual was happening, walked away before their emotions became visible. You mistook retreat for lack of feeling. It was actually the opposite. There is something they have never admitted to anyone, not their closest friends, not their family, not even themselves. Because admitting it would force them to confront a truth they have avoided for far too long. Your presence has become impossible for them to ignore. They notice tiny things about you that no one else seems to notice. The way your expression changes when you genuinely listen. The moments when your laughter briefly erases every burden you've been carrying. The quiet sadness that sometimes hides behind your strongest smile. The kindness you offer even when your own heart feels exhausted. They remember details you have forgotten saying. Moments you assumed disappeared into ordinary life. To them, nothing about you has been ordinary, yet every time they imagine looking into your eyes, something unexpected happens. Confidence disappears, their heartbeat becomes louder than their thoughts, words scatter like leaves before a storm, they begin questioning everything. What if I'm wrong? What if they don't feel the same? What if I ruin the connection by saying too much? What if silence is safer? Fear has an incredible talent for disguising itself as wisdom. It convinces people that waiting forever is somehow less painful than risking one honest moment. Your soulmate has believed that lie for longer than they realize. But heaven has been watching this silent struggle unfold. Not with disappointment, with compassion, because fear does not always belong to weak people. Sometimes it belongs to people who finally discover something precious enough to lose. That changes everything. The careless rarely hesitate. Only those who truly value something pause before risking it. Still, there comes a moment when fear begins demanding too high a price. Your soulmate is approaching that moment now. Something has shifted inside them recently. Perhaps you sensed it without understanding why. Perhaps you felt unusual emotions that arrived without explanation. Perhaps memories surfaced unexpectedly. Perhaps someone's energy felt strangely close even during physical distance. You dismissed these feelings, yet your soul often recognizes movement long before your eyes can see it. Invisible threads have been tightening, not trapping. Guiding. Neither of you fully understands what is happening, but both of you are slowly being moved toward the same intersection. There is another truth you have overlooked. You have spent so much time believing you were waiting alone. You were not. Every night you questioned whether anyone truly saw your heart. Someone else questioned whether they would ever deserve someone like you. while you wondered if love had forgotten your address. They wondered whether courage would ever find theirs. While you prayed for clarity, they prayed for strength. The prayers sounded different. The longing was the same. There have been moments when they almost reached out. One message was typed, then erased. Another conversation began, then abandoned. A greeting lingered on their lips, then dissolved into silence before it could become sound. Each unfinished attempt left them carrying even greater regret. Regret has weight, and the longer it remains unspoken, the heavier it becomes. Your soulmate has been carrying that weight quietly. Some mornings they wake convinced today will finally be different. Today I will say it. Today I will stop hiding. Today I will tell them everything. Then the moment arrives. They see you, or they imagine seeing you, and suddenly every carefully prepared sentence disappears. Not because their feelings weakened, because they became too real. Reality has a way of overwhelming rehearsed courage. Have you ever wondered why certain people seem unusually nervous around someone they deeply admire? It is not because admiration makes them weak. It is because sincerity leaves no place to hide. Masks become impossible to wear. Pretending becomes exhausting. Your soulmate fears that if they truly look into your eyes, you will see everything they have been trying to conceal: their longing, their uncertainty, their hope, their scars, their dreams, their vulnerability. They fear you will see them exactly as they are. Ironically, that is exactly what your soul has been searching for: not perfection, truth, not polished words, honest ones. Yet neither of you knows the full story. There are pieces missing, pieces only time has been allowed to carry, because if every answer arrived at once, neither heart would be prepared to receive it. Preparation often feels like delay, but preparation protects what impatience would accidentally destroy. Do not mistake slow movement for absent movement. Seeds buried beneath the earth appear lifeless, yet beneath the surface, entire forests begin in silence. This connection has been growing the same way, invisible first, visible later. Your soulmate has begun noticing strange moments that they cannot explain. Songs suddenly remind them of you. Certain places unexpectedly stir memories connected to you. Random conversations somehow circle back to qualities you possess. Even dreams have begun carrying familiar echoes. At first they dismissed these moments as coincidence. Then coincidence became impossible to believe. Eventually they stopped asking, "Why do I keep thinking about them?" and started asking, "What happens if I never tell them?" That question changed everything, because regret always looks farther into the future than fear does. Fear focuses on tomorrow. Regret imagines years. Your soulmate has begun imagining years. Years wondering, years pretending, years asking themselves what might have happened had they simply spoken. Those imagined futures have become heavier than the fear itself. Something inside them has started breaking, not in destruction, in awakening. Walls that took years to build have begun cracking, very slowly, almost silently, but unmistakably. You cannot hear a mountain changing shape from one heartbeat to the next. Yet over time, entire landscapes transform. That is exactly what is happening inside them, and you have been changing too, without noticing. the disappointments that once convinced you to stop believing no longer carry the same authority. Your heart still remembers pain, but it also remembers hope, a quiet hope, one you have tried to ignore because disappointment once felt easier than expectation. Still, something refuses to let you give up completely. That something is not weakness, it is the part of your soul that already senses a chapter is ending, not because life suddenly becomes effortless, because hidden truths cannot remain hidden forever. There is a sentence your soulmate has carried in silence for longer than you could imagine. A sentence they have whispered only within the privacy of their own thoughts, never aloud, never where another person could hear. Every time those words rise toward their lips, their courage collapses. Every single time, they fear those words possess the power to change everything. And they are right, because once truth is spoken, neither heart can return to pretending. They know this. That is why they hesitate. But heaven also knows something they do not. Fear has a limit. Silence has an expiration. Hidden love eventually reaches a crossroads where remaining quiet becomes more painful than speaking honestly. Your soulmate is walking toward that crossroads now. Closer than they realize, closer than you realize, a moment has already been set into motion, a moment that neither of you expects. It will begin with something that appears ordinary, so ordinary that either of you could overlook it, a brief encounter, a familiar place, an unexpected message, a simple question. Nothing dramatic at first glance, yet within that ordinary moment, everything they have spent so long trying to bury will rise to the surface. Their heartbeat will betray them, their eyes will reveal what their words cannot, their silence will become impossible to maintain. They will stand before you carrying the heaviest truth of their life. Their lips will part. Their voice will tremble. They will finally begin the sentence they have rehearsed 1,000 times in solitude, I am. But what follows those two words will alter both of your lives in ways neither of you is prepared to imagine, and that moment is closer than either soul has dared to believe. My beloved child, there is a reason I did not reveal the rest too soon. Some truths lose their power when they arrive before the heart is ready to receive them. Anticipation has been preparing a place inside you. Every unanswered question, every quiet pause, every lingering feeling has been leading to this very moment. Now listen with more than your ears. Listen with the part of you that has survived every disappointment without forgetting how to hope. The sentence has remained unfinished for so long that it has become almost sacred within their heart. I am. Those words have rested on the edge of their soul countless times. Each time they tried to continue, fear interrupted them, not because they did not know what to say, because they knew exactly what they wanted to say, and that certainty terrified them. There were evenings when they imagined standing before you. Everything seemed so simple in their mind. They pictured themselves meeting your eyes without looking away. They imagined taking one slow breath, then finally speaking the truth they had hidden beneath careful smiles and ordinary conversations. But every imagined moment ended the same way. Their courage dissolved, their heartbeat became louder than their voice. The confession remained trapped behind silence. You have asked yourself a question many times. If someone truly cared, wouldn't they just tell me? The world often says yes, but hearts are rarely that simple. Some people fear rejection, Your soulmate fears something even deeper. They fear becoming known. There is a difference. Rejection wounds the ego. Being fully known exposes the soul to stand before someone without disguises, without pretending, without carefully chosen masks, requires a kind of bravery many people spend their entire lives searching for. Your soulmate has been searching. Not for you, for that courage, and every step toward it has felt like climbing a mountain they cannot even explain to others. Because how do you tell someone, I've become afraid of the one person who makes me feel most alive? It sounds impossible, yet impossible things happen inside human hearts every day. They remember moments you have forgotten. Perhaps it was something small, a sentence you spoke without thinking, a gesture of kindness you believed nobody noticed, the way you encouraged someone else while quietly carrying your own burdens, the way you laughed after admitting you were tired, the way your eyes revealed compassion before your words ever could. Those moments became treasures they collected in silence. Not intentionally, it simply happened. Some people remember birthdays, some remember names. Your soulmate remembers the feeling your presence created. That feeling followed them home. It appeared unexpectedly while they were working, while they were driving, while listening to music, while staring out a window wondering why one person could occupy so much space inside a heart without even trying. They argued with themselves. This doesn't make sense. I barely know them. I need to move on. Yet every attempt to convince themselves only brought your memory back stronger. Truth has an unusual habit. The harder someone pushes it away, the louder it echoes. Meanwhile, you interpreted the distance as a final answer. You told yourself stories that were never true. They've forgotten me. I imagined everything. If they cared, I would know. How quickly wounded hearts write endings before the story has reached its middle. You protected yourself the only way you knew how. You lowered your expectations. You buried curiosity beneath acceptance. You convinced yourself that silence meant there was nothing left to discover, but silence has been protecting. A confession too fragile to survive careless timing. There were days your soulmate almost surrendered. They nearly accepted a life where these feelings remained hidden forever.